That long gospel reading comes from the 9th chapter of the Gospel of John and is number 6 in the 7 signs. We've talked a lot about the signs in the Gospel of John. The last sign is next Sunday, chapter 11, the raising of Lazarus. You remember the first sign was Cana of Galilee. So the early church, in preparing for baptism at Easter, led this small community of converts through this whole series of signs. And you will notice a parallel between this man born blind, encounter with Jesus, and the Samaritan woman, the growing of faith. First, the man called Jesus, anointed my eyes and I see. Then he says he is a prophet. And finally, he makes this confession of faith. I believe in the Lord. It's a messianic statement. The same thing happens with the woman at the well. You will remember that. There are various teachings that come out of this. Of course, in the Gospel of John, blindness does not always just mean physical blindness or being not sighted. It has to do with the growing of faith. I want to look at the various energies that run through this for these few moments. First of all, you have the energy of Jesus, the healing messianic Jesus. And then the whole encounter with the blind man and his parents. And then the Pharisees. So I'm going to just look at the Pharisees for a few moments by way of the manner in which they exercise power. The unbridled manner, the unguarded way in which they exercise their power. No restrictions, no accountability, no measure of restraint. They will excommunicate the man because they can't quite understand him. That type of power happens in the business of religion. Not infrequently. You look at the history, our own history, somehow for better or worse, the exercise of power was very central to the great schism of 1054 between Constantinople and Rome. And would you believe that the Pope will not meet the patriarch from Constantinople, from Istanbul, until 900 years later? This is a kind of a tension of power. We introduced all sorts of theology that divided us, but there was a power component in it that was very, very significant. Bring us along to the Crusades, and then up to 1545, where you have the Council of Trent. For better or worse, exercises of power. Bring us into the Second Vatican Council, the exercise of power in one manner or another, and up to the present day. Look at the history of the manner in which, in our own tradition, our religious tradition, we exercise power over people. The manner in which the Pharisees, and on some occasions we exercise power, was to give yesterday's answers to today's questions. To emphasize membership rather than experience. A lot of people are looking for a religious experience, and we're offering membership. You register, make sure you have the papers, this is a membership, and therefore your membership can be taken away by power. Your experience. Cannot take an experience away from you, but we can take your membership. So there's a tension between sometimes what we offer and what the Spirit inside the person is really seeking. Henri Nouwen, in his book on Christian leadership, especially in the Catholic Church, because Nouwen was a Catholic priest, an extraordinary, insightful writer, and he said, in Christian leadership in our church, there are three qualities that must be present. The first one is the leader must be accessible. This doesn't mean just available now. Accessible for new ideas, accessible for questions, accessible for a new self-understanding and a new understanding of people. Without this, Nouwen says, the leader does not connect with the real life of people. The second is he must be accountable. The biggest challenge we have in leadership in the first world especially, but across the globe, is how to deal with an educated laity. How to deal with a laity that's highly informed in a world of global technology, where we find out today what's happening at the conclave in Rome, preparing for the conclave. And the minute this Pope is announced, Habemus Papam Gaudiamus, we will know instantly. We are an informed people. We're used to accountability. And this is a new awareness and a new sensitivity when we come into the structural exercise of power. But this is necessary to have an effective Christian leadership, says Henri Nouwen. And the third quality needed for efficacious leadership, Nouwen says, is vulnerability. The leader must be vulnerable, which means the leader must belong to the pains and the struggles and the tears and the songs and celebrations of the people of God. Close enough to connect with the earth, with the real life experiences of people. So how will the leader know that no matter what you say about birth control, 80% of our young couples make their own decisions, no matter what the bishop says? This is a certain kind of vulnerability. How do I connect with their pain? How do you connect with couples married a second time that are yearning to go to the Eucharist but feel excluded? How do you feel the pain, the struggle? Are you close enough to be vulnerable as they are vulnerable? How do you feel the pain of the undocumented person who is filled with fear? Close enough to feel that. Or the poor of the world. From a place of power, how do you connect with that? The people of Haiti. God knows we need Haiti, the Holy Family. It allows us to connect, even in a marginal way, with some of the radical poverty which is visited upon our world here, man-made. And our economy is struggling until we go and see the third world. How do we connect with this in the leadership in our church? How do we connect with the gay person who feels judged and excluded? The pain, the isolation, the sense of separation. How do you come down to earth enough to feel that? That's vulnerable. How do you get in leadership the courage to say, I am wrong, and I will take responsibility for my failure? That's accountability, and that's vulnerability. So Nouwen says, in contrast to the Pharisees, or the manner in which sometimes in religion power is exercised, he says, in our tradition, if we are to have charismatic, effective leadership of God's people, we must belong to God's people. Not up there. We must belong, be part of the economy of the best and the worst of times. To be accessible, accountable, and to be vulnerable. Well, that's one teaching of many teachings found in this gospel reading from John chapter 9 today. Amen.